Okay, so we need to pass a function. When the button is clicked, we want to execute that function that will send requests to our backend with the name, email, and password so that we can save in the database, right? Now, before we do that, let me do one more thing here. To this button, you can pass a prop called title. That way you can, when you reuse this button, you can give different title based on where you are using. Right, so when you're using in the sign up, maybe you want to show sign up button. The name for the button will be sign up, and when you use it on the sign in screen, then you can show sign in. You can customize it easily. So title, let's give a different title. Let's give sign up. Now we can access this title prop in this button. We can destructure that title, and instead of submit, we can display title. Okay, now you can see we get that props sign up. Okay, now next thing, we have to use Axios, because eventually we're going to send this information to our backend. Even though we haven't even started with our backend, that's all right. We can just get everything ready in the front end. Then we will start writing our own backend API. Right? So let's install Axios. Npm install Axios. So just like in the web apps, you can use Axios in React Native, right? Just like in the web to make request to your server. So once that's done, npm start, and we run in the IO simulator. So press I. Okay. Now let's import Axios. Then let's create a function, and we pass that function as props to submit button. All right. So we can call this function. Let's call it handle submit. Async function. We try any error. We cat console log for now. So try, what do you want to do here? Actually, before we even try, we want to make sure that there is the name, email, and password. Otherwise, there is no point making request, right? So we can make a small check here. So first, we want to change the loading state. Set loading to true when the button is pressed. Then we check if there is no name, or no email or no password, because we need all these fields. So if we don't have them, you don't want to send request, Axios request to backend. There is no point, because we need these values here. So we can show the alert to the user. All fields are required. Okay, so at this point, set loading back to false, and then we use the return keyword to end the code execution will end here as soon as there is a return keyword, because if there are no values, all these values, we don't want to make a request. So we want to return immediately without executing any code underneath. All right, so that's a little check here. So once we have that, we're going to make a request. So if we have name, email, and password, we make a request. So we try using Axios, and that will give us the response data. We can destructure directly. So for that, we're going to make a request Axios.post. It will be post request. So at the moment, we're going to write the full URL, but later we will customize the Axios. Okay, so that way you don't have to keep writing the full URL, but at the moment it's just continue like this. So http:// localhost: 8000. This is where our server will be running. /API/ we can call it sign up. All right, so we're going to make a request to that endpoint. And when we make a request, this is a post request, we need to make sure we are sending the data. So we are sending the name, email, and password. So name, email, password. Alright, so you must have noticed that when we're sending the name, we don't have to give the value like this, because the name and value, they are same. So in that case, we just do it like this. Okay, so we make a post request with this data, name, email, and password. We're sending as a second argument, you can see, to the Axios post function. The first argument is the URL, second argument is the actual data we're posting. Alright, so if it was successful, we can console log. Let's write a bit of a string here. Sign in success. Data, we can console log the data before we do anything else. Obviously, we need to save this in the global context API. We need to save it in the local storage so that our application can access it later, even when the screen is reloaded. We're going to do all that, but for the moment, we just console log. And then we can throw some alert, and we can say sign up successful. And then maybe we can even redirect user to other page. Okay, so let's not do anything at the moment. Let's see how this goes. Obviously, we don't even have this API, so obviously we have a lot to do here, but this is how we're going to make a request. All right, so we have this function. So that function, let me pass that as props to the submit button. On submit, actually let's call it handle submit, and the function is handle submit itself. Okay, so this function will be available into this button now, so we can destruct handle submit, and we can execute that when the text, this one, the touchable opacity, when user press here on this button, we're going to execute this function. So that means we can use on press here, on press handle submit. We're going to execute that function. All right, and then when it has been pressed, we need to show the loading, some kind of a loading indicator, right? So you could show the loading spinner, anything, but we're just going to change the text for the moment. Later I will show you how you can use some animation, loading animation, all that, but for the moment let's just keep it simple. All right, so to access the loading state, we can pass that here, loading as well. Okay, so we're passing the loading, title, and the handle submit. Now we can access that here, loading. All right, now title, we're going to conditionally render. So if it is loading, if loading is true, using ternary, we can say something like please wait. If not, if loading is false, then we show the title. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's give it a try. And at the moment, obviously we get the error because we don't have that here. We don't have the API, so we should see the error. But we can at least console log and have a look. Console log sign up request, name, email, password. We can have a look at that. All right, so let's try. let's try without anything. We should get the error. Actually, it's disconnected, it's showing. So let me come here. Alright, so it's running. Let me just reload. Okay, so let's try without any values, and you get this alert. All fields are required, which is from here. Okay, so that's working. Now let's enter the value. Ryan at gmail.com. Now if I hit sign up, please wait, because we have the loading state. And actually, even when we catch the error, we can set the set loading to false. And even when there is success, loading to false. So at the beginning it will be true, but then anything happens, the validation error, success or error, we set it back to false. All right, so let me reload one more time. And by the way, you must have seen, you can see here in the console we have the name, email and password, which we console logged here. That means, sorry, not that one, here. So that means we have access to all that state data we can send to our backend. So let's try again. By the way, if you will be typing a lot of time, so instead of that, if you want to save some time, you can just give the default value here, so that it's easy to give it a try. Okay, so let's try now. Sign up. Okay, so obviously we don't see anything. We get this network error because that API does not exist yet. Okay, so far so good. We have the handle submit, and we pass that as props to the submit button as well. So later when we have the server, we will get the response, and until we receive the response, that 1 second or less, you will show the loading will be true. So you will see the text, please wait, and then once we get the response, we can save that information in the local storage, and then we can redirect the user to login page.